Welcome back, everybody, to the Insightful Podcast. We gain insight in order to move forward in life. Things have been a bit busy, so that's why there's such a gap between the previous podcast and this one. But today I'm going to be filming a lot, so hopefully I could get some extra episodes out for you guys. But with all that out of the way, today we are going to be speaking about. Give me a second here. Today's episode is going to be about the myth of a fixed self, right? So, you guys know how I like to do this. I like to just go over each point, give you a little bit of information, and maybe you could take something away from this episode and apply it to your life immediately. So, for the first point, you're not a static character. We treat identity like a finished story, but you're a rough draft and you're allowed to edit. You may grow up a certain way, or you may think of yourself a certain way, or perceive yourself as someone that acts in this uh you know different way, or whatever it might be. And you need to realize that doesn't have to be who you are forever, right? I think it's super important to understand that no matter how much self work you do, no matter how much emphasis you put on developing yourself, you are never a finished version of yourself. And if by, circumstance based, you develop yourself into someone that you don't really like, it's not like, oh, this is who I am now and I can't change anything, because that is false. You could always change the way you are. You could always keep developing and keep changing into the person you want to be. And this kind of bleeds over into the second point, which is personality changes over time. Science backs it. Traits like openness, confidence, and emotional resilience shift as you grow. You're not stuck. So, that is something I dealt with in the past, where, someone having like very low confidence. And I think it's important to understand that, like, you actually don't have to be that way forever, because I've been someone with low confidence and I've been someone with higher confidence. And, life is just better when you're more confident about yourself and you're more confident in your actions and who you are as a person. So I think it's super important that, your personality can change over time. The younger version of me would have never thought that I'd be speaking on a podcast, interviewing guests from around the world that I've never met in person, because I was so close minded. I was so closed off. I would have never thought I'd be doing this today. So I think it's super important to never sell yourself short and think that, because I'm this way, I can never do these other things or these other great things, right? For the third point is labels become limitations. Calling yourself not a morning person or bad with people creates a cage. Identities harden when repeated. And I spoke about this before, as speaking as someone who, kept telling themselves they're an introvert. It's like, yeah, maybe you label yourself that way because of how you act or how you go about the world. But when you repeatedly tell yourself that you're this way, there's no way of changing it. If you kind of just have an open mind and be open with who you are and who you could be, I think that's much more, you know, important, to allow yourself to become the best version of you, because you're no longer just confining yourself to a label, right? It's like, if I just kept telling myself I was an introvert, I would have never started content. I would have never hopped on a podcast and speak to random people, because as much as like introverts can do these things, the type of person I was, I wouldn't have put myself out of my comfort zone and done these things, because I just would be too focused on how I look or how I'm speaking. I haven't spoke on the podcast in a while, and you guys could tell that I'm saying the same words over and over, or I keep like stuttering over myself. But that's just because I haven't done it in a while. Am I going to allow myself not to do it because of that? As I go on, you'll see that the next couple episodes will be better because I've been speaking more. So I think it's super important to never label yourself something, because it does create a cage within you. For the fourth point, growth requires flexibility. Adaptability is a superpower. If you cling to a past version of yourself, you'll block your future one. No matter what mistakes you've made in the past, no matter what you used to do or how you used to treat others, that doesn't have to be who you are forever, right? If you can't be flexible and see that you could change in every single facet in your life, you'll never be able to actually make a difference and change into the person you are. Because that's what I mainly speak about on this podcast and through my content, is the idea of who you could be if you were to do everything right, if you were to show up for yourself every single day, right? All of this takes flexibility because you are doing something that is completely out of your comfort zone in the beginning. But after doing it for so long, it becomes comfortable and it's the right thing. It makes sense to you. For the fifth and final point is re reinvention isn't fake, it's honest. Changing doesn't mean you're being inauthentic. It means you're finally telling the truth about who you're becoming. You know, I think that the people around you that are closest to you, if they see that you're changing, in ways of your personality, like if you're known as the friend that was super quiet and then all of a sudden you're speaking to random people, they're gonna be like, what changed, right? Like, is he being fake? Is this not who he is? But I think it's super important to realize that it isn't fake, it's honest, because you realize that you don't like a certain way you act, you don't like a certain way you go about living in this world, so you wanted to make a change, and that's authentic because you're able to identify an issue within yourself, which many other people can't. So I think it's super important to not allow the people around you to dictate your actions and dictate your mood because they might say a few comments because you're changing for the better. That is all I wanted to go over in this episode of the podcast. If you guys enjoyed it and got value from it, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know any other future topics you'd like me to discuss in the future. We gain insight in order to move forward in life. Take care, everybody, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Crush a cold to a diamond, eyes forever shining. Your beauty alone inspire a nigga to rhyme it.